Hey everybody, so in this part, I'm going to be taking you through how to connect your Knack account to Claude so that you can headlessly have your Knack app backends built via Claude. Claude's also great at building custom front ends, so you can actually have a custom front end created for you via Claude and see and manage it in here, and then choose a different tool to deploy, which we'll get to a little bit later on. So first off, let's take you through our MCP server and how to connect the Knack MCP server. So we have a help doc that has all the information for various different systems. I'll go ahead and pull that up right now. So here is where you can access your specific connection and details for a given AI agent. We have a lot of different tools published on here, Claude, Lovable, etc. And if you come down to Claude, we've actually added a lot of custom instructions I will walk you through. So the first step here is clicking Customize. And you'll have an area in here called Connectors. This is where you can manage all of your different MCP tools. I've already added it, but I disconnected it just so I can show you guys the flow here. I'll hit add and then add a custom connector. Now in here, we'll type in Knack MCP, and then what you'll want to do is find that URL. So we've got this HTTP-MCP. I'll just go ahead and copy that. And over here, you can see I've got my information. And I'm going to hit add. I could hit add. I've already added this though, and I don't want to create another connection here. And what I'll do is show you what it looks like. So you'll have this here, and then you'll hit connect. And this is going to pop open your authentication screen. And in this area, you can quickly, if you've used Google already as your authentication and sign in, which I have, I'm going to go ahead and sign in with this, or you can type in your username and password. I'll click that. I can sign in with my specific email address, and everything is now connected to your Knack MCP server. The next step that you'll want to do, and you don't have to do this, you can say needs approval versus always allow on everything. But I like to just give always allow on almost everything. For write and delete tools, I think this is fine for me. For other tools, I'm going to keep this as custom so that I have delete apps. I don't want to have any apps deleted without my permission. So this is looking good, and I'm all set. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start a chat. So in this area, we'll say, let's go ahead and use the Knack MCP server to build a patient intake and appointment tracking for small medical practice. So we will have providers as one set of folks. So we'll have patients, front desk staff, and then also providers. And what we'll also have is a patient intake form that's publicly accessible, so we don't have to have them log in. We'll also have our front desk staff want to be able to log in and view different intake forms, manage patient accounts, kind of all those details that they might want to do in their role. And then we'll also want to have providers be able to log in and see upcoming appointments. Then you can add some more details here, things like, hey, if I know I have a patient intake object, aka a table that you want to create, go ahead and do that. And also, let's go ahead and add some details about the appointments, the patient's role, and then also some sample records. So let's go ahead and submit this and let Claude get to work. And as you see it, you'll start seeing it's loading skills. Skills are really important, actually, so that Claude or whatever tool you're using knows how to actually build that Knack app with some of the Knack nuances. Knowing about connection fields, knowing how those work, knowing the different field types that are available, knowing that user roles exist, and a lot of those different pieces there. And you can see it's working. It's starting to think through. You can actually see some of the calls it's making and which fields, which tools it's using within the Knack MCP connector. And it's continuing to go. Okay, I'm back. That took about 10, 12 minutes to build and work through all of this. form building and table building and creating behind the scenes a React SPA. I actually had to interrupt Claude and say, hey, try again. And it built a pretty slick looking login screen here with a button here to go to a patient intake form. So you'll see here that the backend gets built out and it says it seeded it with sample data. And what I want to do now before I go ahead and try to publish this somewhere is let's go ahead and check my Knack account out and see what it built out. So I'm in my dashboard here. I'm going to scroll down to my MedTrack Practice Manager. And in here, you can see it's built a couple of patient intakes out, patient intake forms, as well as some appointments, which is great. It's got about 8 fields in each. And I can come in here and see all the different user roles that it configured. So patients, front desk staff, and providers. And another thing you'll want to do too, right now this is still a manual piece in the Knack builder area of turning on your data access controls. This is really key for making sure that when you're having just a patient see only their data when they go into a list of all appointments, and when providers see only the appointments on their schedule, that we have our data access controls enabled. So I'll hit start setup here. And then my step 2 is enforce data access rules for this app. And that basically starts applying permissioning rules and choosing, hey, for patients, do I want to have them see only the records that they own or see everything? But by default, we showcase everything, and you can come in here and limit it. And very shortly, we will have our Knack MCP server be able to automatically manage and configure all this information for you. So this is what our Knack app looks like. It's a great start. And as we said, there's a React SPA single page app that's built behind the scenes in code here. But the downside is these buttons don't work. They're not going to really take me anywhere that I can look at in my browser. So in this next chunk, I'm going to show you what I completed, how to go to the next step and maybe connect it to a tool like Lovable that can host and house your React pages. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward here a little bit to what the end state of one of these apps could look like. And I'll show you something cool and unique at the end. So in this, I've basically taken that same prompt and just built it out a little bit. And you can see here that Claude definitely understands how to build out the Knack app. It's using all the skills. It's calling different parts, getting Knack information, creating different objects with fields. And you can see it's created different objects here, like our patients, our front desk staff, our providers, and appointments. And I can pop over to that Knack app and see all those different areas, like the appointments over here. You can see the different fields that it's created, intake forms, and we've also got some different roles as well. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, though, is within these apps that you build in Claude, they're not hosted anywhere. So if I have this intake form, right, I might have a new patient intake form. And if I have a bunch of information in here that I want to submit and I try to submit it, that button doesn't work. There is no place to send it. It's not a published app. It's not available on the internet to communicate with the Knack backend. So what you might want to do is if you have a Lovable account or other tools, there's tons of different other products out there as well, but you can actually have Claude send that to Lovable. And I said, hey, since I already have my Lovable MCP connected, can you go ahead and create a new app over there with keeping the Knack backend, publish the front end, and have it be accessible and start working up there? So, Claude did its work, and it creates a little preview here. And when I pop over to go to that actual app, and I check out the published app here, so this is directly accessible, I can do things like start the intake form now. And I can say, hey, Billy Banks, let's say B Banks, test, email test.com. We'll add a little bit of a fake phone number, pick a date of birth, say visit, West Allergy Med. We'll say Tom Banks and 899. And you'll see now that this app is actually going to flow into our, it should flow into our intake form. So I've got 0 records in here right now. And when I submit this intake, great, I get a nice thank you status. And if I go over here and refresh, now you'll see Billy Banks' record and some of the details here. So this is a pretty neat way to integrate multiple tools if you are already using something like Lovable. Naturally, you could just have Lovable hooked up directly to Knack if you wanted, but if you prefer to have Claude as more of that central point, you now can experience that and start building that way. So we've got another one as well with base 44, which we can show you another time. But hopefully this gives you a great overview of our Knack MCP server and how you can now build Knack apps headlessly. And whether it's an existing app that you want to add a custom front end to, or whether it's new apps and you want to build them completely new, you now have a great way to use some of these new and exciting tools that they're great at and keep all your data safe and secure in that Knack backend. So thanks.